The Venezuelan government has denounced the Netherlands' decision to deny entry to a diplomatic flight hours before a meeting between the country's Vice President, Delcy Rodriguez, and International Criminal Court prosecutor, Karim Khan. Haitian civil society organizations have formed the National Transitional Council to elect the country's new leaders. A secret United States unit repeatedly killed civilians in airstrikes on Syria, according to multiple current and former military and intelligence officials. From the headquarters of teleSUR English in Havana, Cuba, this is On the South, I'm Katrina Goss. The Venezuelan government has denounced the Netherlands' decision to deny entry to a diplomatic flight, citing security reasons, hours before a meeting between the country's Vice President, Delcy Rodriguez, and International Criminal Court prosecutor, Karim Khan. The Vice President, as head of the delegation travelling to the Netherlands, informed that the meeting, scheduled for this December 14th, is part of the Memorandum of Understanding signed during Prosecutor Khan's visit to Venezuela in November. Rodriguez pointed out that the Dutch Foreign Ministry informed the delegation that they do not have sufficient evidence to examine the security and protection of the aircraft on which the Venezuelan officials would be transferred, and stressed that this was an illegal move that violates the entire international legal order and its obligations as host nation of the ICC.
Here is the evidence of the deception, how they are making it impossible as a host state and further violating the agreement called the Headquarters Agreement between the ICC and the host state. They are violating this agreement by preventing the high authorities such as the Executive Vice President from traveling to a face-to-face working meeting with the President of ICC, His Excellency Karim Khan.
In Chile, tensions are rising in the final stretch of the campaign ahead of the second-round presidential elections. On Sunday, a request for a restraining order was filed for candidate Gabriel Boric against his far-right rival, José Antonio Cast, after he launched accusations against Boric regarding sexual abuse. The petition, which was not presented by Boric or by any member of his campaign team, was filed before the Court of Appeals in Santiago. It was learned that the legal action was filed by lawyer Romina Moira as a result of the accusations made by the far-right presidential candidate during a debate held last Friday. The lawyer stressed that Cast's attitude is illegal and arbitrary and that he should not be allowed to make accusations of such a serious nature. In this context, the woman at the centre of the sexual abuse case used by José Antonio Cast to attack Gabriel Boric demanded that Cast, as well as his campaign team, stop manipulating the facts and re-victimising her. For a statement posted on her Twitter account, Maca Castañeda demanded an end to the use of her name and her story for political ends. She added that Cast's campaign team has stolen her identity on social media and, in short, stolen her voice, without any regard for the harm this could cause her. For his part, candidate Gabriel Boric also published a message on his Twitter account indicating that he had spoken to the young woman and apologised for any macho attitude or comment he'd made in the past, adding that he hopes that the right wing will have the decency to leave her alone. After a tragic accident last Thursday, which left dozens of Central American homes in mourning, relatives of Guatemalan asylum seekers have asked Mexican authorities for help locating their relatives. Tens of thousands of people leave their countries in search of a better future in the United States, facing death at every step of their journey, falling victim to human traffickers along the way who snatch what little money they carry for the journey under the promise of a ride north. The truck accident that resulted in the deaths of over 50 people underscores the dire conditions faced by those in a desperate situation trying to reach the US to escape poverty, violence and conflict in their home countries. Several heads of state from Latin America and the Caribbean have arrived in Cuba ahead of Tuesday's 20th summit of the Bolivarian Alliance for the Peoples of America People's Trade Treaty. Cuban Minister of Culture, Alpidio Alonso, received representatives from Antigua and Barbuda and St. Lucia at the Jose Marti International Airport. The meeting, to begin in Havana on December 14th, will be a favourable moment to celebrate the 17th anniversary of this mechanism for regional integration. Deputy Foreign Minister Josefina Fidel informed that among the topics to be discussed are the creation of joint strategies to face the post-pandemic stage, the evaluation of the regional scenario, measures to guarantee peace and stability, as well as a political agreement to prevent foreign interference in the internal affairs of ALBA TCP member states. The Director General for Latin America and the Caribbean of the Cuban Ministry of Foreign Affairs categorically denied allegations that Cuba is harboring the dissident head of the Revolutionary Armed Forces of Colombia, Ivan Marquez. The official stated that Colombian President Ivan Duque wrongfully accused the Caribbean island of harboring Marquez and described the allegations as a politically motivated lie. In a message published on his Twitter account, Eugenio Martinez underlined the falseness of the rumors made public by the former Colombian ambassador to the United States, Francisco Santos, that the leader of the former Revolutionary Armed Forces of Colombia was hiding out in Cuba and protected by the authorities. And we'll be right back after this very short break. Don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. An important step has been taken by Haitian civil society with the formation of the National Transitional Council, which will be in charge of electing the country's next leaders. The 44-member structure has the objective of electing an interim president and a prime minister, forming the new ministerial cabinet and validating the roadmap for the next administration. The council will be in place for a period of 2 years, as foreseen in the Montana Agreement, signed on August 30th this year by hundreds of socio-political groupings, and will be under the supervision of the Transition Supervising Entity. The installation of the important coalition was attended by parliamentarians, legislators, former officials and representatives of foreign embassies. Their presence strengthens the agreement and acknowledges the fact that the current government of Ariel Henry does not offer real solutions to the crisis facing the country. Meanwhile, the sustained increase in violence in Haiti has deepened hunger and poverty and prevented humanitarian aid organizations from intervening to alleviate the desperate plight of millions of people in the Caribbean nation. Kidnappings and gangs crossfire have prevented aid groups from visiting parts of the capital and other areas of the country where they used to distribute water, food and medicine. This situation is particularly acute given that Haiti is a nation heavily dependent on aid. Several agencies agree that citizens are living under the terror of gangs in a country with only a dozen elected officials representing in theory 11 million people. At the end of November, police confirmed at least 460 kidnappings, twice as many as last year. University students in the Spanish capital made it clear this Monday that several Latin American so-called activists, renowned for receiving United States funding to promote destabilizing acts in their home countries, were not welcome. Students mobilized to condemn the holding of a conference at the Complutense University of Madrid, featuring Cuban playwright Yunia Garcia, Venezuelan opposition politician and fugitive Leopoldo Lopez, and Santiago Urbina, who directs attacks against the Nicaraguan government from Europe, and saw students mobilize. Protesters stressed that neither of the three individuals represent the interests of the populations of their home countries and act as puppets of imperialism promoting attacks on democracy, for which they are handsomely rewarded. French President Emmanuel Macron said on Monday France was willing to work together for Europe with Hungary despite the country's political differences, striking a conciliatory tone as Paris prepares to take over the European Union's presidency. However, Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban described a European Union decision that it would not release a recovery fund for the country until after the 2022 parliamentary elections as political blackmail. Macron visited the Hungarian capital to attend a summit of leaders of the Visegrad Group, Hungary, Poland, the Czech Republic and Slovakia. Tensions between the EU and Hungary have intensified under Orban as his far-right government has attacked and challenged the supremacy of European Union law over national sovereignty. The German Foreign Minister stated that the Nord Stream 2 pipeline cannot currently be certified because it does not comply with European Union energy regulation. Nord Stream 2, which would bring Russian gas under the Baltic Sea to Germany bypassing Ukraine, was completed in September but has still not been certified due to regulatory hurdles. Clarifying earlier threats made by Chancellor Olaf Scholz and ahead of a sit-down with her European partners, Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock said the gas pipeline will not be allowed to operate in the event of any new escalation in Ukraine under an agreement between Berlin and Washington. Germany's energy watchdog in November halted the Nord Stream 2 pipeline certification process, saying its operator needed to set up a local subsidiary under European rules. Cuban Center for Genetic Engineering and Biotechnology reported that the results concerning the safety and effectiveness of the domestically developed Abdala COVID-19 vaccine are already being published in international journals. In July, the Center for State Control of Drugs, Equipment and Medical Devices decided to authorize the emergency use of the vaccine after confirming that it met the requirements. Based on the data obtained in clinical trials, Abdala demonstrated 92.28% efficacy in preventing symptomatic forms of the disease. The Director of Clinical Research at the Center recently confirmed that over time, Abdala maintains its safety, effectiveness and immune response to COVID-19, and these elements confirm its suitability for booster doses. Abdala was the first vaccine against COVID-19 to be developed and authorized for use in Latin America and the Caribbean. The United Nations Children's Fund in Bolivia has welcomed the decision to extend vaccination against COVID-19 to children aged between 5 and 11. UNICEF representative Rafael Ramirez said the move recently announced by the government of President Luis Arce was very positive to ensure that children are protected against the virus and can return to school. Ramirez also highlighted the existence of sufficient doses for other population sectors. Meanwhile, the Bolivian Minister of Health reported that over 11,000 children in this age range have already been vaccinated and assured that none of them had any adverse reaction to the shots. Venezuela has now vaccinated over 81% of the population against COVID-19, according to the latest official figures. Although the vaccination campaign is advancing well, authorities have reiterated the call on all citizens from the age of 2 upwards to attend the more than 2,000 vaccination centres set up across the country and to reinforce control measures to prevent further outbreaks of the virus, especially as the end-of-year festivities approach. Venezuela has reported a total of over 438,000 cases of COVID-19, ranking 9th place in South America. The recovery rate from the disease is 97%.
Particularly from here, we have seen the assessment of the health situation as announced by our President Nicolás Maduro. Venezuela has reached 81.6% vaccination of our population, and we reiterate the call for all those Venezuelans who have not yet been vaccinated, so that children 2 years of age to our seniors, they can go for free to the more than 2,800 points that exist nationwide to get vaccinated and continue protecting themselves, their family, the community, and all of Venezuela. We have had control of COVID-19, however, we're not lowering our guard. That is why we also insist on biosecurity measures, the use of masks, physical distancing, the disinfection of our hands so that we can continue to take care of the Venezuelan family.
And we have more stories coming up after this final short break. Stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. A single top-secret United States strike cell launched tens of thousands of bombs and missiles in Syria, repeatedly killing civilians in the process. According to multiple current and former military and intelligence officials, the unit named Talon Anvil worked in 3 shifts round the clock between 2014 and 2019, pinpointing targets for the US's formidable air power to hit convoys, car bombs, command centers and squads, supposedly belonging to the Islamic State. People who worked with the strike cell stated that in the rush to destroy enemies, it sidestepped safeguards imposed to protect civilians, killing people who had no role in the conflict, such as farmers trying to harvest, children in the street, families fleeing the fighting, and villagers sheltering in buildings. Syrian Foreign Minister Faisal Mekdad hosted the United Nations Special Envoy to the country and his accompanying delegation in Damascus. After conducting a tour of several nations, UN Special Envoy Jer Perdesi said that there was an opportunity to explore a step-by-step approach towards reaching a political solution in the country and noted the continuing efforts to organise the next round of the Syrian Constitutional Committee. He pointed out that the stances of all regional and international players should be analysed, as well as developments in Syria. Meanwhile, the head of Syrian diplomacy denounced the subversive role of Western powers in the country, which continue to support terrorist groups. He stressed the importance of avoiding any foreign interference in the work of the committee and the need for the dialogue to be purely Syrian to Syrian and reflect aspirations of the population. A Palestinian man was gunned down by Israeli forces in the northern occupied West Bank early Monday, security and medical sources reported. Palestinian sources identified the man as Jamal al-Khayal, aged 31, saying he died as a result of bullet shots to his head following Israeli repression of Palestinians in the Ras al-Ain area in the city of Nablus. The killing came after Israeli troops conducted a raid and arrested a Palestinian man in the city. Online videos appeared to show Kayo lying on the ground, bleeding, after the forces left the area. His funeral drew crowds of Palestinians who denounced the latest death at the hands of the Zionist regime. Palestinian news agency Mine said 2 other Palestinian men were wounded after Israeli vehicles struck them while retreating from Nablus. Tunisian President Kais Saied said Monday that Parliament, suspended almost 5 months ago, would remain so until elections he set for December 2022, while calling a July referendum on constitutional reforms. In a speech on national television, Saied announced a popular consultation with the Tunisian people and said that draft constitutional and other reforms will be put forward to referendum on July 25th. That will mark a year since he sacked the government, suspended Parliament and seized a string of powers. His move came as a North African country wallowed in political and economic crises compounded by the coronavirus pandemic. The president, who has been a sharp critic of the North African country's 2014 constitution, said Monday that a nationwide public consultation would take place from January 1st until March 20th to gather suggestions for the reforms. Rescuers in the United States are desperately searching for survivors after a string of tornadoes killed dozens of people and destroyed homes and businesses in 6 Midwestern states. Nowhere suffered as much as the small town of Mayfield, Kentucky, where twisters destroyed a candle factory and the fire and police stations. Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear said at least 80 people were dead, and the toll was expected to eventually exceed 100. More than 300 members of the National Guard were deployed to help remove debris, as other teams are working to distribute water and power generators. The U.S. Federal Emergency Management Agency opened shelters and sent teams and supplies, including 30,000 meals and 45,000 litres of water.
38 years.
I had this restaurant for 38 years, a family business, mom and pop store. I raised my children here. They all worked here. It was our hometown. They all lost everything.
Some 33,000 residents of several municipalities on the Spanish island of La Palma in the Canary Islands have been ordered to stay indoors because of toxic gases emanating from the Cumbre Vieja volcano. After several days of low-level activity, the volcano suddenly sprang to life, with several explosions sending a vast cloud of ash and smoke into the sky. The regional government of the Canary Islands ordered residents of 3 municipalities to lock down owing to high levels of sulfur dioxide in the air. The authorities also recommended that people turn off air conditioning and heating and use tape to seal doors and windows. More than 7,000 people have been evacuated from their homes since the volcano erupted on September 19th, spewing out rivers of lava that have slowly crept towards the sea. And we've come to the end of this news brief. Remember, you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also follow us on social media for all the latest news. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and Telegram. For TeleSUR English, I'm Katrina Goss. Thank you for watching.